All right, let's go. Hi, everybody. It's Julie from Julie's World Crochet. You can see me talking funny. I'm going to explain that in a second. I'm sorry I haven't been on for a couple of weeks, and that's because this has happened. And it's been a couple of weeks. They probably will recover. But since I'm here, since it's been so long, I've just decided to bite the bullet and put it out there because whatever. That's just the way things is. And it's possible this may not recover fully, in which case this will be the case all the time. And then what am I going to do? This is just who I am. So I'm here to show you, and we're going to talk about what I'm working on with doing some crochet and what's happened. This is called Bell's palsy. Now, I will say, let me take this off. So I'm gonna start off. First off, thanks so much for everyone who subscribed. Double digits was a big deal for me. One day, I'll hit 50 and then maybe 100. And I really do like talking and sharing with everyone. It just so happens that I was ill for a while, although weird kind of illness, and mostly just that I have been sleeping nonstop for a couple of weeks here. But other than that, this has happened, and the effects of that, and this has happened, it's on this side. The effects of that are what impact me. It's not worsening or anything, but it is really interesting. And I am professionally, before I got really sick, I have a host of health stuff going on. Before that, I was professionally, I'm a biologist, specifically an immunologist. And of course, very involved with and interested in all things medical. And for my immunology, for my area of research, I researched immunological, inflammatory, basically autoimmune related neurology, like neuropathogenic diseases. So multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, where your immune system is involved in a neurological deficit or disease or something to do with the brain. That's where I'm at. So Bell's palsy actually falls right into that. It turns out that quite a lot of what's going on with me is autoimmune, so I'm right in my field. But why not share it with you? You see, I don't wear makeup anymore. It's been years since I bothered with makeup. I'm just not involved that way. I am who I am. I'm very different than who I was at 15 and 25. And, like we've all grown and changed in so many ways. And that includes me too. And one thing I stopped doing is being concerned with other people telling me who I should be. That left a long time ago. And so if this is who I am and is what's happened, then it is. Now, I'm covering my eye, I should tell you. So, let's start. Bell's palsy, BELL''S, like a person's. Bell's palsy is what it's called. And it is specifically the demyelination, which I'll explain, but basically an autoimmune attack on a facial nerve that's here. And it's a nerve that innervates the muscles. It's not a sensory nerve. I can feel everything I'm touching. I don't have any problems feeling in any way on the side that's been affected. But those are sensory neurons. So the nerves that give you sensation of heat or touch, pressure basically, and the various other sensations that we have. What is the nerve that's affected is like a main facial nerve that comes through here that innervates, that is, activates the muscles. So on this side of my face, you can tell I have no ability to move those muscles. And I'm going to take off the eye patch. So I don't have a problem seeing. It did not affect my vision, and it doesn't affect your vision. But what's happened is that my eye includes the eyelid muscles, and they don't always close very well. I actually physically quite often have to close my eye for myself. And I'm doing that because I'm not blinking. If my muscles aren't working, I'm not blinking properly. I'm not getting closure on my eye, and that can dry out your eye. Now, some people who get Bell's palsy have very dry eye. I'm pretty lucky my eye has been tearing really well to keep it moist and lubricated. So regardless of the fact that I'm not blinking well. But that is probably the one big danger in Bell's palsy, is that if you don't take care of your eye and it allows it to be dry very often, etc., you can have damage to the cornea, and with your that continues to come along. So that's one area that I'm trying to be really careful with. But it's also very interesting. I have done some crochet, so I'm going to share that as well. I'm not doing some right now, but I'm going to talk about it. But since we're here, I'm going to talk about the Bell's palsy and why I look the way I do. I feel like Popeye. I feel like I should have a little corncob pipe sticking out of here because I'm talking out of the side of my mouth. But that's the only side that works. So, and it's really kind of interesting. I'm just going to take this envelope here. If you put me here, I have a fairly normal face, right, going on here. But like this, nothing's working. So I've lost all the muscle tone. It's literally right down the middle of my face. I've lost all the muscle tone here. That's why my eyebrows are two different heights. And that's why my eye kind of droops a little bit. All of that muscle tone I've lost, this, see, this is as big as I can smile. This is me smiling. I am trying the full way. There's no response. This is not working at all. It was really interesting. So I was actually at a session, my therapist, in the morning when this came on. Comes on really quickly, within hours. So I was sitting there and my eye, you know how your eye can twitch? My eye was twitching, but it was twitching a lot. Like not just twitchy twitch, but like he could see it sitting across from me that it was just going. And I had no idea why. And then I went to the post office about an hour after that session. First off, I stopped and got something to eat. And I was chewing and I kept biting my lip and I didn't know why. Like, you know how I had this, and I had a weird thing with my tongue on the other side because of another condition I have. And I thought, well, is this coming back? Is that a deal? I had no idea why I kept biting my lip and it just couldn't kind of stop. I know now it's because it was losing that muscle tone. I can't keep my lip out of the way. I have to be really careful when I eat. I can't even I can't sit through a straw because I can't get the tension around the straw if I'm on this side to create the vacuum. I can't hold, there's no muscle. It's hard to explain what no muscle tone means until you don't have it. It's a very, very wild experience. But what really happened is after I had something to eat, I went to the post office and I was, filling in forms, doing whatever, and I was talking to and I could feel that I was talking funny. I felt like I'm talking like this out of the side of my mouth. And you could tell something feels really weird. And the guy was looking at me and I looked at him and said, this feels weird. Like, does my face look weird? Like, is it funny? And he looked at me and he goes, yes. And I'm like, shit. So I went out to my car and when I looked in the mirror, I could see it had fallen like this and I wasn't responding at all. And of course, the first thing you think is, am I having a stroke? That's exactly what I thought. I'm a caregiver for my mother and she was at a program and I had been actually on my way to pick her up. So I went to pick her up, but mostly because I forgot my phone and I had no way to notify them that I was going to go to the hospital. And my mother needs to be in care of someone at all times. She can't be left alone in any way. So I decided to go to the program she was at that day. Anyway, it was only a few minutes away. And from there, that way I could notify them so that if they needed to get an emergency placement for her or help to cover her while I was at the hospital, they could. Anyway, that all worked out. That wasn't a big deal. But I went there and I mean, the other thing is too, they're all healthcare workers as well. So I felt better kind of being in their presence while I organized what I was going to do and like going to the hospital and stuff. And I basically called and said, I think I'm having a stroke here. And they insisted that we took an ambulance in just in case. However, other than my kind of half my face collapsing, I wasn't having any of the other issues of stroke. And I want to be really careful. If you have signs and symptoms of stroke, go to the hospital, especially with stroke. This is not a time to be embarrassed in any way because we have really excellent treatments for stroke that really promotes a full recovery. But the key with those treatments is that they need to be taken within a short time frame when you have an onset of symptoms. You really want to get them in within 4 hours, which is not a long time. So deciding to wait till later or further on, you can have a lot. If it is a stroke, you can do a lot of damage that is really difficult to recover from if you leave it. Always go to the hospital. Now, some of the signs and symptoms that I would expect with stroke, similarly, you have that loss of muscle tone, but it is not just the face. And actually, with stroke, it is more in the lower jaw than it is including my eye the way it is as well. Not that it doesn't happen, but it is more often from here down. Because remember, the reason that it's my whole half of my face is because it is this one particular nerve that is not conducting the signals correctly. Stroke is damage that's occurring in your brain, or occlusion. Call it occlusion because it is recoverable in quite a lot of cases. But at the moment, you're preventing the effective functioning of your brain, and that's why you see symptoms. So if it's on, it'll be the whole side, right? Or it would have been this. It would affect more than just this one muscle, and that's the thing. So the additional symptoms for stroke include, and I think it's important just to say, you may be young and wonderful, but you have parents and grandparents. Stroke can happen at any age, and certainly the older you get, it is more common that you would have, especially as you take different medications too, have high blood pressure. There's all kinds of issues. I think it's important to know. It's like knowing the Heimlich maneuver. If you can recognize it, you can make such an amazing recovery, right? Like it makes such a difference to access treatment right away. So I will say that additional symptoms that go with stroke, you will have that same loss of muscle tone or disproportionate strength and grip in the half that's going on. So I would have expected for stroke, for me, this half of my face is losing it, that this grip would not be as good, that I may not be as steady because I'm weaker in that leg, so I'm not walking as steady. And additionally, quite often there's some confusion. So orientation for time, for place, for identity, and even just simply visual information. How many fingers am I holding up? All of those things can be affected. Now, if it's not affected, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be assessed for stroke, but certainly please recognize the additional symptoms. Sometimes this kind of facial muscle weakness isn't quite as distinct as the other effects. So it's not enough to wait for some weirdy looking face like this. I mean, look at this. I mean, come on. You may not have to recognize, it may not go this far first before you're having the other symptoms are showing. So know what that is. So with this going on, I felt really good. I wasn't confused. I wasn't having difficulty walking. I wasn't having any issues with my grip strength. My pupils were dilating normally in response to light. Everything else that I know how to do to assess for where I'm losing some brain function, basically, in some way, or I felt like it, like what could possibly be going on here. That all of that was still really good, but I still went to the hospital, and we took an ambulance because I was on my own. There was no one to drive me or anything. It's pretty close by, but it's still safer to do that. And went to the hospital, and very quickly they could assess me and determine that it is not consistent with a stroke and absolutely identical to Bell's palsy. So anyway, so I'm really thankful to the clerk who looked at me like in shock, like he's watching this face collapse and this person start talking weird in the course of our conversation. And he was actually quite shocked at the time, I think. So to give him credit for just saying straight out, yeah, you're looking weird. I'm getting used to it now. At first I wasn't, and I had more pain. So this nerve, and I should look it up. I think it's facial nerve 5. I can't remember. But it's basically one of the main things. Like I said, it innervates the muscle, which is why I have no muscle tone here. And without the muscle tone, I can't keep my eyes closed really well. I bought myself some eye drops, and especially bought this, whatchamacallit. It's also an eye, but it's like a gel cream. It's a lubricant for your eye. and it's a little bit of a gel, and I use this at night. I put it in at night, and I wear the eye patch over it. So the eye patch, the reason I wear the eye patch is twofold. One, when I want to keep my eye closed, like at night with this, I keep it on because it helps keep my eye closed. And secondly, I'll wear it when I'm out and about, especially because we have, and I love the wind and the breeze in the air, but of course that flies around dust, dries out my eye more, so I can't close my eye all the way. So this gives me some protection. If I'm not wearing this, I probably will wear like sunglasses, or other options. But again, I have nothing to be ashamed about, but I'm not embarrassed either that this is just what I'm doing right now. I'm not gonna feel bad or take other risks just for the sake of not having to look weird in public. I look weird for all kinds of reasons. This is the least of them, as far as I'm concerned. And very quickly, just so you know, for Bell's palsy, most people who get Bell's palsy recover. And they'll recover in about 3 weeks. They will start having more, I guess, enervation, or some sensation starts returning. And within a couple of weeks after that, they recover fully. I will say I was a little grateful. So I have, to my knowledge, never known anyone who's had Bell's palsy ever. And it takes so many weeks because this main nerve, the way a nerve innervates is they're very distant, right? You get the initial signal, and it has to elicit that response at the end of that chain, that long neuron. And the way it's an electrical signal is part of it. Electrical is the easiest way to think about it, which if you've ever seen any wires, they all have insulation. And the reason they do that is without the insulation telling them where to go, electricity or that kind of charged signal will go in any direction it possibly can. But like it doesn't care. It has no directionality otherwise. So it needs it's kind of an insulated corridor to keep it going along its path to where it needs to go. And in the human body, our nerves, that is made by myelin. So myelin is what's wrapped around all of the neurons, like an insulator, to keep the going in that direction. This is actually exactly what happens in multiple sclerosis. And no, there is not a link between Bell's palsy and multiple sclerosis. It doesn't seem to be any greatly increased. I think there's probably a slight where some people with MS may also have experienced Bell's palsy, but overall, the majority of people who have Bell's palsy do not go on to develop MS. But the mechanism of why the neural impulses fail are the same. It is the demyelination, and it's an autoimmune destruction of the myelin sheath. So that's what's happened in my face. This facial nerve has been the myelin has been damaged by my own immune system, and that has caused it to fail. It is no longer signaling correctly, and that just takes a few weeks to recover from. I should say the other thing I'll say is it is linked to viral infection, to Lyme disease, and in some cases with no particular reason. And viral infection, not particularly a new viral infection. I don't have COVID. It is linked to herpes simplex and to sometimes to oh my God, I'm going to blank out on it. Chickenpox, shingles, not zoster. You know what I'm talking about. Varicella, the shingles virus. Go look it up, because that can linger in the nerves. That's how you get shingles. You had chickenpox, and then basically that virus can lay dormant in and around the nerves in particular areas. I have had shingles before. I was very, very fortunate in that it was entirely painless, which is an extreme rarity. But it does mean that I harbor that virus, which a lot of people do. In my generation, we all had chickenpox when we were little. And so then that viral dormant, can then migrate. Now that's something that occurs so that when it's reactivated, you end up with that damage. In the course of trying to clear the virus, your immune system has also done damage to the myelin sheath on that neuron. There's a relationship that goes with that. Although it's not definitive, it's not just one thing. I should clarify that. It's not just one thing, because it's your immune system that has done this. So there's a number of circumstances that can turn that on or make that happen. So you shouldn't worry about that. Now, for myself, my white blood cell count, which is kind of a measure of your leukocytes, your immune system responding. If you have an infection, it goes way up because your body is making a whole bunch of those white blood cells to fight your infection. My white blood cell count was totally normal. It means that my body didn't think that there was an infection going on or inflammation going on. So what caused it for me is probably not viral related for myself. Probably. We don't know. We don't test. We care about this, and they don't do anything. They put me on a steroid for a week, which seems to increase recovery, but actually there isn't a huge amount of data for that because lots of people recover without any intervention at all. Um, it simply is you need the time for your that remyelination that happens all the time. I should say that happens all the time in your brain. There is a constant kind of maintenance going on to for any damage, to remyelinate, to keep it healthy, patchwork, all that stuff. So now I need to spend the time for my body to do this. In the meantime, but then again, I will say, so 85%, 80%, 85% of people spontaneously recover and recover fully. So like they're you just after a few weeks it goes. Now some people it takes longer. Sometimes it can take 3 months. It can up to 6 months or a year to really fully recover all of your muscle tone that is in there. And a very, very small percentage of people don't recover their tone. And it probably relates to whatever the mechanism or cause of that damage is, or other health issues going on in their body, which we just can't predict at this moment who that's going to be. But almost everybody totally recovers. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons I know is I had never known anyone who had Bell's palsy. But once I had it, everyone recognized it because they had it, you know. And I was going to say this 80% recover. Okay, well, that's 1 in 5 that don't recover. 4 to 5 people do. So the first couple of days, when I, went to wherever I went to, a couple of days later, my mother had another day in her program. So when I brought it, it's like, oh yes, it's Bell's palsy, and then that worker was like, oh my husband had that, and then a lady who was dropping off the person she cares for was like, do you have Bell's palsy? Oh, I had that a couple of years ago. By the way, her face is totally fine. She looks totally normal. I would never have guessed it. That's part of it. It turns out all these people started coming out and being able to say right away, I had Bell's palsy years ago. I did. It makes me feel better that they all look fine. Like they're all doing really good. On the other hand, like the first person that within the first day, basically, I met 4 people who told me, a neighbor, oh, I had, 4 people who had Bell's palsy. And I'm like, okay, I need to meet some more people now because that's 4. And if 4 to 5 people recover fully and all of these people have recovered fully, I think I just want to meet more people and get the numbers up and not be the one who doesn't recover. But we'll have to see. Now, there are treatments that are possible if you're not recovering. That's its own thing. It's a very specialized, and there is simply nothing to do, no intervention to take at this point. Everything is totally normal. However, it has been 2.5 weeks since it started, and so far I'm not, although I had a little bit of a twitch right here, it's possible that I will be kind of in that normal timeline, but it's also possible it may take me months. And I just decided I am not willing to step away from this channel. I just started it. I only have a few videos. And I'm hoping you could just put up with the weirdness. I still am going to do my WIP and talks, but probably shorter because, and the reason I wasn't doing it wasn't that I looked weird or I was overly embarrassed, but it was harder to talk. I've been able to learn how to talk well. I periodically still bite my tongue, I can't. Drinking is like it. My mouth gets dry when I'm talking a lot, so I have to take a sip. It took me a week to learn how to drink and not be dribbling. So I mean, there's things like that that I just didn't want to put out there until I could figure out how to use my face again. And of course, I talk funny. I was spitting for a while. Like it takes a little bit. So I'm not gonna spend too long on everything, but that's the Bell's palsy talk. That explains what's going on here. Um, my face actually looks a little bit weird, I think, but that's okay. Um, like not weird because of this, but it looks like a little bit fatter on this. But I think it's just because the muscle tone changes. It's really weird how it looks like. I'm really fascinated how this half of my face is just slumped down, and it's right down the middle of my face. It's really kind of wild. Even my tongue, this is the side here, my taste buds have entirely changed. It feels like there's some sort of like a condom over one half of my tongue. So I've kind of lost some of the taste and the sensation, which is also really wild in its own right. There's all kinds of effects that you didn't think were going to happen or didn't realize went on with um, having all of your muscles. It took me several days to learn how to eat because you can't. I couldn't keep. I had to learn not to chew on that side or how to move food around in my mouth so that it stayed in my mouth because I have no control of my cheeks either. If I wasn't careful, I'd have food come out. Like it was, I didn't, no one needs to see that, right? Like no one needs to see that. So in the meantime, everything else has been good. It's all fine. I'm all feeling fine. I have been sleeping a lot, but I haven't been feeling ill. And as a matter of fact, oddly, and I have some theories into why this is, but who knows? The health conditions that have kept me on disability for the last couple of years have gotten quite a bit better in the last couple of months. And so, even though I have this going on, which has its own challenges to deal with and everything else, interestingly, over the past couple of weeks, some of those health things have seemed to balance, like faded right off, which is really interesting because I've been fighting them for years. And there's a number of reasons why that may be the case. I'm hoping they don't end up turning when I recover from this, but we'll see. You know, like it's still more information to know. But so even though I've had to sleep quite a bit more throughout this, at the same time I feel quite a bit better in some ways. So I'm just going to try and enjoy that and take that for what it is, because what else can you do, right? Anyway, let me show you what I've been doing. Um, I haven't, okay, I finished the Lucky Exam blanket, and I do have it all videoed, but obviously, but I haven't put that together yet. I'm going to be editing that and get that out ASAP. In the meantime, you know, I think I told you before I wanted to do a Demelza blanket or something similar. It's basically inspired by these kinds of, and I'll show you, there's a couple of them here that are on Ravelry. I'll post the links. But really just that, a bit of a granny square effect, but very, very colorful, and kind of thick and full, and just really, I wanted to try that out. Now there's another kind of version I'm looking to do as well, but I wanted to do this because just because I wanted to, something really super colorful. And when I ordered from Ice Yarns last time, you can see my, the yarn haul was, I guess, about a month or so ago, I posted that. I had bought the colors for it. I had waited to do this blanket or something like the inspired blanket, because I wanted to have all of the same type of yarn, just something that had a variety of colors. I will say, I think I didn't get the colors quite right for what I wanted. I really should have used a brighter pink. This is a pink, and this is kind of a mauve. But I still have a very bright blue, green, yellow, kind of a, it says light yellow, but it's very white looking. But this is an example of, okay, so yeah, there's two here. Oh, shit. What did I do? Hey, 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 hey. Oh, here it is. So I'll do this one. So this is the center I went online. I found some large. This is not. It's inspired by the Demelza blanket, but it is not. The squares are not. I went online and I found a bunch of different squares. I'll put those on there, and I just started using colors. So one of the things I did, I really should have used a very bright red. So it had a bright red, but it was really light colored, and I wanted something really dark. I didn't want to incorporate black or dark brown. So I went for this kind of burgundy color here. And it's nice and dark, but it's not bright red enough, right? And the pink, I think, is not bright pink enough. I really should have gone for like a candy floss, bright pink for the effect that I wanted. Not that it won't work, just I'll make it work. But just advice for the future. I'm not going to get exactly what I was envisioning, but I am going to work with what I got. I spent a lot of money for the yarn, and I'm going to give it a try. And I just want to see how it turns out anyway. This was actually more fun to do than I expected as far as doing a kind of a complex thing. On the other hand, if you will look, there are 16 rows in this. There's actually like 18, but two of them are like a double row. So there are 16 levels of colors. You fasten off and start a new color like every time around. And what that means is there are 32 ends to weave in here. So I am only doing 5 of these kinds of squares. Now, this is the center one, and I decided I don't really like, I don't mind, I mean, it looks fine, but I don't like this being yellow, and it's quite a bold color. So I really wanted it for the center, but I don't want it in all 4 corners. So I did this one for the center. And it's kind of got that offset where like it's a diamond, it's a square until you turn it, and then now it's a diamond and a square. And then I wanted to have a variety of them. I really want them to be very different, which I think that the ones where they do it where it's very proportional and they have 4 of these and 3 of these, you'll see in the picture of the blankets that I'm inspired by. I think they do a nicer job with that. I think it turns out better. It's just, I'm just not going to do it. I didn't want to. I just want to see. I'm probably only making this one for quite a while. I have some other projects, and they are not this kind of Afghan square. So I really just want to do it with the yarn that I have and explore the different. I'm more into, for this blanket, exploring the different options, and I'll find a way to put it together, and then we'll see what it turns out. If I don't like it, I'll give it away. If I love it, it'll be on my bed. Someone out there will love it. So this is the other square that I had done for it, like I had got the pattern for and did. I like that fine. It's a little bit easier, and it uses, not that it's easy. I found both of them easier than I expected. So I really liked that. Both patterns were kind of well written, pretty straightforward to complete. I'm pleased with that. I'm going to do 3 more of these ones, but I'll use different colors. So I'll balance it differently. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. My dark accent color, as like I said, is this kind of burgundy, which I guess in this lighting doesn't look very burgundy, but I promise you it is this dark burgundy color. So I'm going to be varying the colors. It'll still be the same pattern. This burgundy will always be the center for these. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I decided, so when I bought these things, this here, I thought it's labeled as a light yellow. Notice I bought an actual yellow because it looks very white. And I got to say, on this, it looks very white, no matter what. I don't care what they say. It says light yellow, barely. It's like they took the dye thing and they just scared it. They didn't even go near it. They just showed it to them and threatened to dye them. It's very white. So I had also bought this kind of cream color. Here was part of it. So I have this kind of beigey cream color in it. And because the pink and the lavender is already that dusty kind of color, I think it dulls it too much. So I was doing this up, and I just kind of changed my mind. And we know this is the problem with me. I will reassess in the process and then change what I'm doing. So I've laid out what I think I'm going to do. I decided I'm only doing 4 of these plus the center one. And what I decided to do, so one of the things I liked about this blanket is it is not all Afghan squares. It also has some multicolor panels in there, and I really like that effect. I find it really interesting. I'm doing that in more than one piece. So that's captured my attention. So the way I'm getting around this, or what I've decided to do, is I am doing, I created or made, I used all of the colors except that dark red, that burgundy color. I made Afghan squares, and they're all different colors, but they have the beige is, I'm not using the beige in anything else except around these Afghan squares. So this is that light yellow, quite white, but all of them have the beige for the outer border, and then they have this core square. I do like having some small squares with the large ones. That's one of the things I really like. So this was a way to kind of achieve that really colorfully, because only the center is done, so therefore that's where my color is in these really small squares. And this is a 6-inch square. Those ones there, the large ones are 12-inch squares. So two of these makes a width. And what I'm going to do is, this is the raised join. I'm just going to show you here. I haven't done any more. I'm only going to show you this. I'm going to, from the way I've laid it out, I'm going to put these together with this raised join. So I have this really dark red kind of cutting it in. And I think that will tone down or take, like, I don't know, it'll compensate a bit for the drabness of this beige. And remember, it's not going to be a wall of these. There's a line that'll be going down, but then we have these very colorful corners, plus very colorful panel. And the center one I'm saving to finish. What I'll do is I will do it in this beige around the center piece once I have the size all laid out for how I want it to be. And then use this dark burgundy. And of course, I'm going to have this burgundy and a really nice border all the way around, because I have to keep that in mind. I have the same number, the same amount of skeins for each of these, and I actually bought quite a lot. I have 4,000 or 6,000, like lots of yardage, but basically 4 skeins of each color. So if I wanted to have a fairly wide border, I really need to make sure I have enough around, and that's how I got to. But I know I want this burgundy, and the burgundy is almost too dark to incorporate in the same way as like these individual panels. So that's where I came. I'm just going to use them to really be bold around and frame around these this lighter colored this beigey panel. I have a nice bright centers. And I think that the dark burgundy kind of compensates. Just imagine it all around, plus a nice dark border around. So that's the plan. I am enjoying kind of knocking these off. I haven't. It's pretty quick. I was kind of amazed at how quickly this particular pattern is. Again, I'll throw the link down there, and it's pretty good. Now, and I should say, you can do it in 3 colors, all in 1 color if you want. The example that the girl had showed it is all as 1 or as 3. So this inside was a color, and then they had this outer border was another color, and then this final outer ring. So I just decided to do these 2 all in a single color, and then just have the outer border behind that. And I like that very much. That's working for me. And I just didn't want more ends. There's so many ends in that 12. Look at 32 ends to weave for one 12-inch panel. That's love. That's got to be love. There's no other way. Anyway, so that's kind of what I've been fussing and working on through what I'm doing. I'm also working on a shirt that, I put it down for a while because I have somehow managed to create massive tangles. I had pulled it out so much. This is one, I don't know if I've told you. I can't remember where I left you off, but I was having, I could not get the length right. I mean, I'd get the length right, but then I'd go do my first couple of rows, and suddenly it's 2 inches longer, or it was shorter. I don't know what was going on in there, but then I'd take it all apart, frog it all, and then restart again. But because I frogged it, I just had so much that it was getting tangled, and it was my fault. My cat was in on it. Stuff was going on. But then I got too frustrated to continue, so I stuck it down. But I do want to show you because it's a really nice summer top, and I am in July already. So I'm hoping to pick that up again. But really, you can just do one thing at a time. I'm going to cut it off here. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much. If you like everything, I'm really sorry I disappeared like that, but stuff happens, and I'm going to continue on. Like, I'm just going to start posting again. I feel like I've got enough control. I don't spit when I talk. I can drink a drink. Um, can't chew gum or anything like that, but I mean, we're fine. I don't chew gum anyway. I'll avoid the things that I can't necessarily do yet, but we're getting there, and hopefully we'll see a recovery. But if we don't, I'm just not willing to hide my head in the sand. Oh, also, I mean, again, thank you to all subscribers. If you like what you see, like and subscribe. You'll see that I took out a coffee account, created a coffee account, and I'm going to try and work with that because I'm not monetized here, which is fine, but I don't have an Etsy account. I'm not making things, and I'm not really putting together very many patterns. I will put them on here, on YouTube for free, and I'll put them on the coffee now too. But that just seemed the way that, I mean, there was a couple of people who did want to find a way, and I don't have that. So this was a mechanism for those of you who want to, chip in a coffee or whatever, or interested in a particular yarn for me to try out. I mean, that's, I think, the mechanism that I found was going to be the most straightforward for anybody. So thank you so much. Otherwise, just go ahead and hit a like and come back. I'm going to get myself together and be posting all of the things that I had planned and I can put together now that things are that much better. I'm really smiling. Like, you're just going to have to take my word for it that I'm smiling right now. I'm so glad that you're here, and we'll see you soon. Bye.